Hey kiddies, it's Triple Feature Tuesday once again, and this week we're going to ask, what's Dan Aykroyd doing there? That's right, this week I'm sort of on the run, so this is going to not only be a quick one, but a bit of a recycle from back when I used to just do write-ups before I did videos. 3 instances in which my beloved Dan Aykroyd just pops up in places where you wouldn't think he would pop up. It's just a little odd. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Dan Aykroyd. I've gone on record several times as saying this. It began mainly because my dad looks like Dan Aykroyd, and so, you know, if he looks like my dad, I love him. So, Dan Aykroyd, what are you doing there? Our menu is going to include Twilight Zone, the movie, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and We Are the World. Twilight Zone, the movie, I really enjoy this. This is a pretty good anthology horror movie based on original episodes of The Twilight Zone, directed and I think written by most of the same guys, by John Landis, Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante, and George Miller. John Landis directed not only the first actual segment with Victor Morrow, but also the initial prologue sequence, which features Albert Brooks and Dan Aykroyd driving around on a dark road. And what's fun is that we're given no information about these guys. They are on the road. We don't know who they are. We don't know who they are to each other. I wouldn't be surprised if Dan Aykroyd was a hitchhiker that Albert Brooks picked up, because, I mean, it's the 70s. It's when they used to do that sort of thing. And everything's sort of harmless. They're having fun. They're playing like little road trip games when Albert Brooks tries to scare Dan Aykroyd, and it does with a little, no headlights gag, and it works. But then Dan Aykroyd asks if Albert Brooks would like to see something really scary, and Albert Brooks is totally game. Whatever. Pulls over. Dan Aykroyd turns into a monster and eats him. It's great because it totally sets the tone for the rest of the movie, where it's like going to be the Twilight Zone, but scarier because you don't know what's going to happen and when it's going to happen. Because out of nowhere, Dan Aykroyd, of all people, adorable Canadian Aykroyd, turns into a scary ghoul that eats Albert Brooks. Why, Dan? Why? And also, what are you doing there? Well, actually, no, we know what he's doing there. It's John Landis. They were asshole buddies back then, with the Blues Brothers, and eventually they would do Trading Places and Spies Like Us together. So, I mean, they were good friends. But again, just odd that we have the beginning of the horror movie. Actually, it's also odd that Albert Brooks is there. But, why not? It's going to be fun. Did I say 70s? It's like the late 70s, very early 80s, and so that's why. Next, we have an almost blink and you'll miss it cameo in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom by Dan Aykroyd. Dan Aykroyd had made, not necessarily his feature film debut, but the first real movie that anybody would care about that he was in was 1941, directed by Steven Spielberg. You might remember it as that war movie that you didn't see and really don't want to. It's fun. I mean, it does have Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi, but, in completely separate scenes. But it's not that great. Oh, and also Treat Williams. Actually, you know what? What am I talking about? 1941's a good time. You should go watch it. Anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is actually a prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. It takes place before. Hence the word prequel, because I'm just rambling at this point. So, Indy, Short Round, and Willie Scott have escaped Lao Che, maybe, and they are making their way to an airplane that Indiana Jones has had his buddy set up for him so that they could make good their escape with, hopefully their fortune, but of course they didn't get any of the money. Indy was lucky to leave with his life. The travel agent is Dan Aykroyd, affecting a very posh British accent, and he's hilarious. This is one of those times where you really do need Dan Aykroyd for something like this, because he's got to do an accent, and he's got to be speaking at 1,000,000 miles a second. And he pulls it off. He's just rambling the whole time. I don't think he stops talking from the minute he walks on to the minute he's done. And it's great. Dan Aykroyd doing English. It's like, aren't you Willie Scott, the famous American vocalist? And it's just, you would not know it unless you knew it, because you barely see him what he really looks like up close, and the whole time he's doing a voice that's not his own. But I mean, it's Dan Aykroyd that is what he's doing half of the time. But it's really a lot of fun. And then it turns out the plane is owned by Lao She, and oh, then we have bigger problems, like, you know, how do you survive a plane crashing into a mountain with a life raft? Science? Finally, we have We Are the World. You remember We Are the World? Quincy Jones and Michael Jackson and Lionel Richie's brainchild to raise money for the hungry people in Africa, where we got all these very famous musicians together to make like a big anthem song that we could rally behind and sell the single and promote and raise money and awareness. And in the middle of all this is Dan Aykroyd. Because why not? I was looking at the list of the people in the chorus. Like, of course, he's not a featured soloist, but looking at the people in the chorus, I'm pretty sure he's the only non-singer in the whole thing. But, you know, he's doing it. It's Dan Aykroyd. Are you telling me you don't want Dan Aykroyd in your big anthem for Africa? Of course you do. God, he's so weird. It's a lot of fun, though. I mean, you know you're not going to have a boring time when Dan Aykroyd's in your movie or, you know, music video or whatever, because he's just always interesting and bizarre and, you know, borderline personality disorder, but in a good way. I think. I don't hang out with him. Or at the very least, I don't hang out with him as much as I used to. I remember him fondly. Either way, I'm just vamping at this point. I'll see you guys next week with a much longer and, you know, well, not much longer, but a longer video and a more in-depth topic, and probably not one that's a rehash of when I used to just write these things up. But in the meantime, what is Dan Aykroyd doing there? Twilight Zone, the movie, Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and We Are the World. And I will see you guys next week.